So last night I was doing some preparation work for a pretty big video that's upcoming. Fuck it. I know for a fact I'm gonna do it now. I know for a fact how I'm gonna do it. It'll be out right at the end of the year. Right after I do my 2024 games ranked, I will be doing my top 100 favorite games of all time. I'm gonna do it in a weird fashion. It'll be 2 parts, maybe 3 parts. I still haven't worked that out, but the top 100 games of all time are coming at the end of this year, very early 2025. So gonna go ahead and give myself a deadline. That way I'm committed. That way I actually get this shit out. I've been working on it for forever at this point. I couldn't find out the right format for how to do this thing, but I think I got it now. So I think that's what we're gonna go with. And early 2025, that's my deadline. Got to get it out by early 2025. But anyway, though, as I was sitting there preparing for that video and going through all the games that could potentially be in my top 100, it was crazy because I was going by year. It was crazy how many new IP were constantly popping up in that list, from like PS1 to the PS3 era. And then the new IP kind of fell off a cliff in the modern era. And definitely as we got into PS5 Series X generation, the 9th generation, new IP really began to fall off a cliff. And I should say new IP, new AAA IP. Like, big publishers investing in new games. We don't get a lot of that anymore. Like, over the last couple years, hit me in the comments if I'm forgetting something, but I came up with about 8 games over the last couple years that I would consider, new big-ish AAA IP. Black Myth Wukong, which is a humongous hit this year. Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess from Capcom, which, definitely a smaller scale Capcom game, but it's still being published by Capcom. I still imagine they spent some pretty good money on that thing. Stellar Blade, I think absolutely 100% fits in that criteria of new AAA IP. Rise of the Ronin, I feel pretty similarly about. I think that's definitely in that camp of new AAA IP. This one's a little bit weird. Hi-Fi Rush, that feels like it's kind of in that AA space, even though, it's got Microsoft money behind it. It wasn't a humongous team who put Hi-Fi Rush together. I don't think they were spending hundreds of millions of dollars on Hi-Fi Rush. But still, for the sake of this argument, let's throw it in there. Atomic Heart from, I think that was 2023. That seemed like a pretty big, I know once again, it wasn't the biggest team in the world, but that was that looked like a pretty damn expensive game, man. Wild Hearts, which is one that I feel like I do not hear people talk about at all. The kind of Monster Hunter EA Originals title. And then Starfield, which I got to give Bethesda a lot of credit for Starfield. They have, really bankable IP with Fallout and Skyrim, and for them to go out and create something totally original, a lot of credit to Bethesda for that. But yeah, out of the last couple years, those are really the only 8 games I could come up with for new big AAA IP. And once again, hit me in the comments if I'm forgetting some stuff. But listen, don't get me wrong. I understand why AAA publishers are more risk adverse. I understand why they're going to prioritize franchises. They have the historical data to look at and go, okay, well, if part 1 sold X amount, and that means we can invest Y amount in part 2 and make back fucking Z amount and then roll that into part 3. Like, I get that. It does make sound financial sense. But it is so wild to look back a few generations ago and be like, oh, well, welcome to 2007. The year that brought you BioShock 1 and Portal 1 and Crysis 1 and Uncharted 1 and Mass Effect 1 and The Witcher 1 and Crackdown 1 and Assassin's Creed 1 and Skate 1. Like, this is all in 2007. These are all brand new original IP. The first entry of these humongous franchises, all were created, all launched in 2007. And then you had a bunch of weird kind of like one-off AAA shit like Stranglehold or Heavenly Sword or Kane and Lynch, which, you know, Kane and Lynch kind of became somewhat of a franchise somehow, but just weird AAA off-the-wall investments in games that you just don't see weird experimental ideas like this often at all in the AAA space. And even if you want to go back to 2006, you had Saints Row 1 and then Yakuza 1, Okami, Gears 1, Bully, Dead Rising, Resistance, God Hand, Prey. I mean, dude, it's crazy the amount of new IP that were being delivered to us on a very, very regular basis. In that, you know, it really, you know, you want to go back to the PlayStation 1, obviously, you're talking about Metal Gear Solid 1, Resident Evil 1, and Tomb Raider 1. Like, we were getting hit new IP on such a regular basis. And of course, you can make the argument, well, that's why we're not getting as many now, because everything's already been created, and you can have that defeatist attitude where it's like, I don't think that's true at all. I feel like there's still so many fresh ideas out there, things that aren't being done at all in the game space. And I know we've talked about this ad nauseum on the channel, but just think about the lack of, like, you know, single player heist games, or the lack of competitors in the Grand Theft Auto open world space, or the lack of non-fantasy, non-sci-fi RPGs. Like, you know, the only thing we really have in the RPG space that isn't of that ilk came from like 2000 and what was that, 10 or 11, with Alpha Protocol, the spy RPG. I don't know, I just find it crazy that we went through like 20 games easily from, you know, 2006 and 2007, and we're struggling to put together a list of 10. Like, I couldn't put together a list of 10 games from 2023 and 2024. And even in that list, I'm kind of stretching a little bit to you know, throw a Hi-Fi Rush on the list, stretching a little bit to throw a Kunitsugami on the list. And once again, I understand, you know, you look at this franchise and you understand the bankability of it, but how many times can you bank on this franchise, this IP, until it's no longer bankable? Like, the juice is going to run out at some point. If you keep squeezing that motherfucker, it's running out of juice. Unless your name is Nintendo, it seems like pretty much every other franchise develops some sort of franchise fatigue within its player base. And I don't know if y'all feel this way, but I genuinely hope, like, the next time we see a Santa Monica logo, that it's not a Santa Monica logo and then a new reveal of a new God of War game. The next time we see a Naughty Dog logo, I really genuinely hope it's not Naughty Dog logo and then The Last of Us Part 3. Even like a Crystal Dynamics, like, I would love to see, I know they're working on that game, the Tomb Raider game that's being funded by Amazon, but I'd love to see them work within what they know, a third-person shooter, just a new IP. You know, it can play very similarly to Tomb Raider. Like, let's just create something new. Like, let's throw a new character's face out there. Let's try to create a new iconic character. Same thing with like Ubisoft. And I know that that's a much bigger publisher, but it'd be great to see a Ubisoft logo pop up and not be expecting a Far Cry, not be expecting an Assassin's Creed. And of course, you know, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. If a Ubisoft logo pops up and then we see Splinter Cell or Beyond Good and Evil 2, am I going to get hyped? You damn right I'm going to get hyped. But that's also a weird thing where we could go on and on with this, but those franchises have been dead for so long, that would almost feel in a weird way like a new IP is being revived. And I know it's not technically that. And I still think if I had to pick one or the other, a new Splinter Cell or just a totally new thing, like a new single player narrative driven thing, I think I still would take the new single. I don't know, that's actually really fucking tough, so I might be a part of the problem here. But even, you know, like Rockstar, once GTA 6 comes out, I know they take fucking ages to create their games, but I would hope that the next thing revealed isn't a Red Dead. As much as I love Red Dead 2, I've claimed many a times on this channel that I think it's the greatest game ever created. But like, I would that era of Rockstar, when you're looking at Warriors, which, you know, license, but you're looking at Warriors and Bully and Midnight Club and Manhunt, and then yeah, you have your Red Dead Revolver and your Grand Theft Auto and things that are going to live on for years and years, which Red Dead Revolver maybe not so much quite in that sense, but yeah, you know, Grand Theft Auto living on for years and years, and Red Dead Redemption living on for years and years. And I think that having a bankable franchise in your back pocket is an incredible thing to have that most video game companies wish they had. At least a franchise that is that bankable and that dependable to get you your return on your investment. But at some point it does feel like, you know, it's probably wise to not solely invest and solely rely on things you created 20 years ago. So, genuine question to you guys. What is the last AAA new IP that came out in the last few years that you think has like real franchise potential? Like, I'm sitting here trying to think right now, and I mean, of course you have Elden Ring, which technically, yeah, that's definitely a new IP. If Starfield's a new IP, then Elden Ring is as well. Maybe Starfield breaks the mold a little bit more from the Bethesda game format than Elden Ring does from the FromSoft format, but it's still, regardless of how it plays or whatever, it's still definitely a new IP. It would definitely still qualify, and it definitely has all the franchise potential in the world. It's weird to look at something like Hogwarts, obviously, because there's a direct license tied to it, but of course that's going to become huge. I feel like you might have to go all the way back to like 2020 with Cyberpunk in terms of new, like, humongous AAA IP that have released and could end up going on to become Cyberpunk is going to be huge. The fact that it's outpacing The Witcher 3 by that much so far is really, really shocking to me. And of course, you know, they have Cyberpunk 2 in development, and that thing's going to go on to be a huge, huge franchise. And I definitely think Hi-Fi Rush, I think Hi-Fi Rush will go on to be a big, big franchise. And you know, however you slice it, I would still say that qualifies in the AAA space. I definitely think it does. And, you know, now that it found a new publisher and all that, I think Hi-Fi Rush will go on to be, I think you'll see like cartoons and animated movies and action figures. And I think that's going to become a huge, huge franchise. So, yeah, those are some of the ones that come to the top of my mind, but there's just not many over the last few years that have even released in the first place, but even less in the camp of new IP that have come out over the last few years that I think have like real franchise potential. So yeah, once again, these quick random ass videos where I just sit and ramble about thoughts that I've been having in my brain about the old video games. I like this shorter format because it's just, you know, a light bulb will go off in my head about some random ass topic. I'm like, yeah, I wonder what y'all think about it. Like, a lot of these videos are literally just me going, huh, I wonder what they think about it. And I'll shoot it out and, you know, let y'all sound off in the comments, because that's really the fun part about this to me, is with having a smaller community, I can actually go through and read the comments and hit y'all back, and y'all often have, I'm probably missing tons of new AAA IP that came out that y'all be like, hey, what about this, and this? And yeah, kind of that, and it makes me re-examine and rethink about things in the video game space. And I don't know, I just think it's a good mental exercise to keep my wheels turning about the old video games. So yeah, hit me in the comments. Definitely hit me in the comments with the last, AAA IP, the last new AAA IP that you think has like real franchise potential in the future, especially if it's one I missed on here. I'm really curious.